I'm going to start the recording. Well, hello, welcome everyone. Today we are going to be talking about getting the most out of some of the Michigan Community Service Commission's resources. And one of those great resources is our Get Connected. Get Connected is a volunteer management platform, but I realize that many do use this as a volunteer recruiting platform, but we're going to talk about both today. With that, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move on to our introduction here. I know we still have some people joining, and I'll just let them in as we come along, but I encourage you just to unmute and also use the chat if you can. But I want to do a quick introduction of myself today. And then we're going to talk about maybe why you'd want to use Get Connected and what are some of the tools available to you, as well as how to get access to it. And then I wanted to open it up for some question and answers as well. This is not exactly a training on like, how do you do this or that and get connected? Although if you have those questions, I may be able to help. But this is really just kind of like a, why would you want to use this? Is it a good fit for you kind of a training? So with that, my name is Melissa Sherry, and I'm the Volunteer Impact Coordinator for the Michigan Community Service Commission. I've been here in this role for just about 2 years now, and I've absolutely loved it. I have had an extensive history in volunteer management as well, and so this was a great fit for where I have been and where I'd like to go. So I'm delighted to be here. And then the other thing is this presentation is made possible by AmeriCorps, the agency. They have provided Michigan with something called the Volunteer Generation Grant. And as a follow-up to this, I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind sharing some basic data with us for our grant. It includes the volunteer hours and the number of volunteers that you have in your organization in a certain period of time. Nothing confidential that needs to be shared. But if you would love to share those with me, we sure would love to get that information from you. And it'll help strengthen our grant. And then it'll also help strengthen the opportunities that we'll get another volunteer generation grant that will help us increase the number of volunteers that are serving in the state of Michigan, and also increase your reach and your capacity to be able to use volunteers through trainings and resources such as this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a little poll, and this poll will just really help me understand, kind of where everyone is. So I'm going to launch the first poll. Feel free to take a moment to answer those. Is everyone else having access to it, I hope? Okay, there it goes. I think Zoom is a little slow today. Okay, great. Oh, good. Okay. Well, the reason I asked this question, and I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to launch and share those results. The reason I asked this is because Get Connected can do all of this. Most, like I said, I suspect use it as a recruiting form, but you can use it as a volunteer management platform. And if you use the commission's version of it, it is completely free. It's like kind of a light version, just like you would get in an app. It's the light version of that, but we have lots of features that you can use and things like that. So this is perfect. This is great information. And this really helps me kind of understand what it is that you'd like to get out of today. So, and if there's something that I didn't address or I'm not addressing, feel free to jump in and let me know. Just as a curiosity, how many currently use Get Connected? Feel free to just unmute and let me know, or use the chat. I'll give you a moment to answer that. You may be using it through a United Way. You may be a license holder like the United Way or the Commission is, but even if you're not, you have access to it free of charge. Never heard of it. Okay, well, good, Tina. Okay, I'm new. Wow, that's great. Okay. Well, we love having new people. Yes. Okay. Oh my gosh. This is perfect, everyone. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. Well, let me give you a little history on Get Connected. Get Connected was or is a platform. It's from a company called Galaxy Digital, and they have a couple of different formats. They have this one for nonprofits, they have another one for disaster, and then they have some that are being used by agencies that are recruiting for themselves. And then they have one that is actually for schools, like universities, maybe some high schools, but mostly it's aimed at the university level. And so, like the MSU Office on Civic Engagement, my understanding is this is something that they're moving towards, and that should be very exciting. The other exciting thing is this was something that the United Ways had worked with initially, and then many United Ways across the country use Get Connected, and in the state of Michigan most particularly. And so when the commission was looking to have a volunteer management platform ourselves, we adopted this primarily because the United Ways were using it. Now, this is not to say that this is the only one out there and this is the best thing in the world and you really have to use it. We would never tell anybody you must use this, but there are some advantages if you do, but you have to decide if they're right for you. So the first thing we're going to talk about is accessing Get Connected. Right down here, volunteermichigan.org. That is the website address for the state of Michigan, the commission's website for Get Connected. And this is our front page. What you can do as a agency is you can sign up as an agency. You first do sign up as an individual, and then you go through the agency things, which we'll talk about in just a couple of minutes. This information can be, this is the basic information where you see up here, the manager, my agencies, things like that. And then there's a list of things that are down here on the left. And that if you look at ours, we have our dashboard, we have our needs. We also have our spotlights that are on there. And those are just highlights of things that we have going on. Now, if you get onto another site, such as Capital Area United Way, or you get on Southeast Michigan United Ways, or even Genesee County United Way, they all have their own, and this can look very different. Oh, that's your board chair on the far left. Oh my gosh, that's great. That's great, Jackie. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So we have, this is our front page. This is what volunteers see when they come to us. We change these out periodically, but you have the ability as an agency to be able to post your needs and to be able to share what your positions are and things like that. So with that, that's the address there. And then let's talk a minute about the features that are available. Oh, whoa, what did I do here? Okay, so the features that are available. This is a quick rundown, and I just really want to be able to share with you these things because sometimes people understand them, sometimes they don't. But if there's anything that's confusing, just let me know. First, as I've mentioned already, this is a free volunteer management tool. It can do things like schedule volunteers. It can also record their hours. There's an app that we're going to talk about in a few minutes where the volunteers can sign in for roles. They can see what new positions have been added, things like that. And then they can also check in online and record their hours that way. As I said, many United Ways offer Get Connected. And, the ideal thing is to be able to post both on the state and the individual organizations Get Connected. We are working on some data share agreements with the organizations in Michigan that have Get Connected. And what that will do is if you post at your local United Way, if they have it, it will come up to ours. And the nice part about that is that it opens it up to more people who can see your your needs that are out there. The other thing about that is in our Get Connected, we have just under 12,000 people in our Get Connected, and it's driven a lot of times by specific needs that we had. So the governor, when she will tweet out things or, ask people, have a request such as COVID related, or we had a lot of people that offered to help when we had our Afghan evacuees coming into Michigan. And we also had a lot of people help and offer their assistance for education type things to help children get back on track after the pandemic. So we get people on there all the time that are adding, but many times the big bumps that we get are from the governor saying, hey, go to your local Get Connected. Other United Ways, how they get people is that they're adding people all the time. People are self-adding in from the community because they see a need that's out there. And so they have them on their volunteer page, just in case you're not aware. And one thing is, once you are approved as an agency, ours is set up that you can just go ahead and start posting. We don't approve your posts. I've never had anybody post anything inappropriate, but we only allow people who are agencies who are nonprofits on there. So if you're an emerging nonprofit, and let's say you're just starting out, you haven't gotten the 501c3 yet, that is okay. You can post there. But if you're a for-profit company, which we've had some people get confused on that, and we have not been able to approve them, that's usually what happens. But if you're an up-and-coming nonprofit, if you're a very established one, you go ahead and put your information in there, start your profile. And then what we will do is we'll review it, we'll approve it. You'll get an email back from us that says that it's approved. And then you can start posting your positions. And you can do that right away. And like I said, no other approval processes after that. So one other thing about, and I kind of mentioned this, when we had those 11,000 people that are in our system, they are people that are audiences that are looking for opportunities to serve. Most of the time, they are people that will sign up for multiple things. They won't just sign up for one thing. So the nice thing is that you're getting more exposure. And then, like I said, too, using both. Yes, local government can use the site. Thank you very much, Tina. I appreciate that. We're government too. And then actually we are working with municipalities to do something like this, and to be able to have every city have, or municipality, township, what have you, to be able to have their opportunities in here. So it's just basically a nonprofit charitable. So if you're a church, you can put things in. You might not be a 501c3, or you may be, but yes, you can use that. That's a great question. Thank you. And but again, using both of those really do expand your reach. So if you live in an area, check out your local United Way, ask if they have it, find out if they have it, put your things there and put your things here. Then the other thing is that they can really kind of help boost your the awareness on the site is we have initiatives, and initiatives are things that are like highlights. So we have one on there right now for Join AmeriCorps. And we have other organizations that have AmeriCorps positions available, and they put theirs under that initiative, and it works out great. What we are going to do, and we want to be able to work with our agencies on this, if there's certain times of the year that it makes sense that we have certain things up, like maybe October, November, December, we have things regarding holiday volunteering, and then volunteer in your local community over the holidays. That might be a one that you might want to put a special position under that. If you need a gift wrapper, sometimes I know agencies will do those gift wrapping at the malls, and people, pay with donations and things like that. That to me is great because I hate wrapping presents. But for people to be able to see that, for people who are better at wrapping presents than myself, how about that? They can volunteer for those things. The other thing is like the meal things that are coming up. You can put events on there where you need people to come and donate or support, things like that. So it can be more than just volunteering. You can have other things as people are associated with your organization that they'd like to support. So we also have spotlights, and those spotlights are featured on the front page. I think there's one right now for, or there will be at least later on this afternoon, about helping Gaylord. We have some more needs for them after that tornado that affected the area this summer. And what we're going to do is put out some special needs for volunteers to help with construction projects. So that will be highlighted right on the page. But there could be, again, other things that if a number of agencies are saying, we all do this in October, or we all do this in September, can we feature that? We'd love to be able to hear that. So think about that. And then as we're talking to agencies, to get your feedback. And the Get Connected is really good for ongoing and short-term or episodic events. It's great for the days of caring. You can put everything in there from, t-shirt sizes to a waiver to people signing up for a specific location. Back in the day when I used to do this all kind of pen and paper, that was really, we'd have 20 different places someone could volunteer, and I would have to make sure that they all got their confirmations where they're going to go and things like that. But you can have all that, right, including the maps on there. So that's super easy, and it can all be under your agency's profile. So even though the need isn't at your agency's address, you can still do that. And then it walks you right through it. So, and we'll talk about more like those specific steps in a little bit here. So, and then the ongoing events, some of the best practices I think for ongoing events is to still put an expiration date on it, even though you always know you need drivers. You always know you need drivers, but you might want to refresh that so it doesn't look stale, and like every time you go and you love this agency but they only have one thing available, and maybe it'll happen that hours could be more flexible or something. So put an end date on it, and you'll always get an email about an expiring need. And what you can do is just go in, refresh it, put some new words to it, update some information on, put some links to your social medias, things like that. If there's any press coverage on that kind of need, put that in there. Just refresh it and make it look a little more newer, a little more exciting every time. So, and like I mentioned, Get Connected, you can have things like waivers. You can also put links to your training in there. Sometimes people need some training ahead of time, or there's a message you want them to watch, maybe it's from your board chair, or something like that, or a message about your volunteers. That would be great to put in there. And we can help you with any of that. That's a little more advanced, but it's okay. You can also put specific questions that are pertaining to needs. Like, for example, you can restrict it to adults or just individuals or teams, things like that. Are there any questions on that part so far? I know it takes just a moment here to get that in there, but I'll just keep checking that. Okay, so here are some of those, the advantages. Volunteers actually can access a mobile app to sign in and track hours. They can go to the schedule and sign up for new shifts, take themselves off for shifts, things like that. But that's really convenient. And volunteers do really seem to enjoy having that ability to be in control. I hear that a lot of times. And then volunteers can share the need with others. And what's great about that is that they can like your they can like your agency and share it on their social media pages to get their friends to come and volunteer, either for a specific need or just to generally raise awareness about your organization, which I think is pretty cool. And so that's called being a fan of the agency. And then in your profile, there's a number of opportunities to link all your social medias. And the more in depth that information is and complete, I find the more people are responding to it, and they're more apt to sign up because they don't necessarily volunteer for an organization, they volunteer for a cause. And if your cause is, AKA your needs, and that are aligned to your causes and your mission, the more clear that those are, the more likely that you're going to get some really great volunteers that are responding. And then organizations, you can have multiple people in the organization supporting the work that you're doing. For example, you'll have a lead agency manager, and then you can have other people that are listed there. I think that there's a limit of 4 or 5, but you can have those people. They can go on and have all the same rights to be able to add things, edit things, end things like that. And then if there's anything that's really advanced, you can ask us and we can see if we can help. The other thing is you can do the same with your local United Ways if they're willing to do that. I know we're a little more willing. I'm not sure what they're willing to do because there's so many of them, but for sure. So notifications, they do arrive via email when volunteers sign up. They also give you emails about other things too. So mine, just FYI, I could not find mine for a long time. And I have like a focused, and I have another file, which I think is not really spam, but kind of spam. And it goes into there. I would say make sure you look for those because most of my things tend to end up there. So if you have like another folder for spam or something, just make sure you either move those over to your regular or you're aware of that. And hopefully you're going to get lots and lots of volunteers to sign up. So this system also allows for individuals and groups to sign up together. You can sign up as, it could be a family, it could be a team of people at work, if you have a work sponsored event like the Day of Caring or something like that, or MLK Day, that's one that we our National Days of Service that we do. And then individuals can sign up as well. And then you can restrict it to only teams or only individuals, whatever it works. So you can actually say, I only need 1 volunteer for this, or I need 100 volunteers. You can restrict the age. You can explain whether it's an outdoor. You can explain the hours, the specifics on the hours, even if it is flexible. And then you can also add information in about the specific needs. And then once you have the need set up, you can go in and you can create a schedule where volunteers who are accepted, so you would have to accept the volunteer, but they can self-schedule for their volunteer slots. They can't go in and schedule for their slots before they're approved by your organization, because that would be really difficult without any training and then also screening. And then the timekeeping. The timekeeping allows them, as I mentioned before, to go in and click in that they're there, but it also allows you to see a number of stats too. And we're going to talk about that in reports. And you can always see who's currently checked in, which for me, when I would use this feature previously, it was for a few things. One, if there was an emergency and we had to evacuate, where I worked, we always had to have plans for those kind of things. And so we would have to create a roster of who was here, so we knew who was accounted for. And it was a large organization. So sometimes that's a little harder to find out where people are. And then the next thing is we can do lots of reports with Get Connected. And we'll talk about those here in a moment. Are there any questions so far? Okay. I'll just assume that if you have questions that you'll let me know. So let's talk for a moment about reports. The reports that are available on Get Connected, they're pretty easy to run. There's just basic reports that are available on all the volunteers that have expressed an interest in your roles. You get you can export these into Excel. They're very easy. Some of them come up right away. Some of them get sent to you via email if they're a little bigger. But some of the things that you can see, you can be able to track like how successful outreach to your volunteers were, and how many people, for example, answered an email, how many people out of all your volunteers clicked that on to see how well that message was received. And then you can also download information about how many people volunteered during a certain period of time, how many people volunteer on a daily basis, a monthly basis, how your agency is doing at keeping up with your Get Connected. Whether it's you're posting, you've only posted one project in the last 6 months, or let's say you've posted 50 and you've had responses to 95 of them. So you can see how well you're doing there with those reports. They also have some specific reports, like for FEMA, calculating volunteer hours that are used in response to a declared disaster, things like that. You can use those. There's also the check-in ability, and how many people have been checking in, who's misscheduled times, how many of your scheduled times had, what was the no-show rate, what was the show rate, that kind of thing. And then if there's more detailed reports, I'm thinking that we can help you with that. And then again, there's pretty easy downloads into Excel, and the reports, I should specifically say, you can get a report on each need. So if you had 50 needs, that's a lot, but let's say you do, and you want to see what your retention rate is, how many hours people are donating for that need, things like that. You can get all those reports in there. Any questions about reports, or is there something specific that you think that you would like to see or you need to see? And you can feel free to unmute if you have questions about that. It's a quiet group today, my goodness. Okay, so let's talk about schedules. I think this is one of the best things. I use this for an 8-week-long session for mass vaccination at the Ford Field clinic, COVID clinic. It was last year, and we had 40 volunteers a day, and over an 8-week period. So it was a lot of people, right? And what we did after they were approved is that they were allowed to sign up for their shifts. In this role, we did the training that day. That may or may not work for you. In a lot of cases, it won't work. But for people who are okay and approved to go ahead and sign up for shifts, they can sign up for upcoming shifts that you have put in there. So you could make it like an easy thing, like every day it's 8 to noon and noon to 4, something like that. Or every day could have a different shift, a different time period for those shifts, things like that. And then you can designate how many people can sign up for that same shift. So a lot of times you will have a shift where you need 3 volunteers at the same time, and you can designate it to 3, and it will tell you, and it will keep track. If a volunteer backed out, it will keep track and say, okay, 2 of 3 shifts have been filled, and it's on the filled part, not the vacancy part. So you got to keep that in mind. And then it tracks the completion of the schedules. It'll tell you whether, it's 100% filled, 80% filled, things like that. So, and volunteers, like I said, can remove themselves from a shift. And the nice part about that is that it gives them more control. But on the other hand, you have to decide if it's going to challenge you in terms of They backed out of a shift. What am I going to do now? I just found out. But if they're not going to come, they're not going to come. And then you can have shifts set up for all the different needs that you have. So even like multiple sites or multiple needs. So you might have a front desk person at two different places, maybe two different entrances or whatever. And then obviously for the multiple types of work. So maybe somebody, maybe you have a play group with kids, and then you've got a front door person, maybe you have meeting facilitators, things like that. So you might have lots and lots of different opportunities, but you can put all of those in there and then specify the shifts for each one. And then I wanted to share some best practices for managing your account. So one of the things, and I always tend to say best practices, what's good for me is not good for you necessarily, but this is some really kind of solid advice on managing your Get Connected account. And I've said this before, but refresh the information on a regular basis. Use those deadlines that it gives, an expiration date. You'll get the opportunity to refresh it, but having that on there really forces you to remind you to go back in and look and see what else you need. And track what worked and what didn't work. Some opportunities are definitely harder to recruit for than others. And, you might really need to think twice about, like, is this really the right platform? There are other platforms that I'm going to talk about too. So again, refreshing the existing needs, just make them a little more exciting, switch it up a little bit. And then, adding your stretch needs. We will have a skills-based platform available eventually, but think about that, like in terms of what it is that your agency needs that you can't afford to hire right now. So it could be, we need an accountant. We need one accountant to, get us ready for our 990. It could be an HR professional who could review all of our policies and procedures to make sure that they're up to date and they're legal, and that we are not infringing on any privacy rights, things like that of our employees. So you can add those. We'll also have our skills-based platform available eventually. And then, like I said, in your profile, making sure that you use your social medias, addresses, and that you really, promote what it is that your organization's doing. And then take a look at your website and make sure that you have a volunteer and a donations page. And I'm going to tell you why in just a moment, but connecting with that and maybe being able to put that link to the volunteer page is really important in your profile, because you may be able to add extra volunteers for other needs that maybe aren't listed on Get Connected. If you're using figures on your website, this is just a personal pet peeve of mine. Don't have figures from 2014, don't have old figures on there, and have them updated. And I would say like within the last year would be appropriate, or list multiple years. Have needs with a clear message about what the need is, what the impact is, and how that volunteer can help, and really what is in it for that volunteer. It really doesn't change like how you write any of those needs. But when it's Get Connected, you can put some other information and link it to those things. So, such as the social media. Okay. So, I wanted to share, wait a minute, I'm missing a slide here. Hold on. Ah, oh gosh, there was something I wanted to share with you. I think huh. Oh, this is what I wanted to share with you. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we have some other resources that are available to you from the Michigan Community Service Commission. And I would encourage you to take a look at these. The first one is the MyServes. This is the Michigan Nonprofit Guide. What this does is, we have a lot of small nonprofits that are emerging. We have some that are large, well-known, well-established, and we have some that are, maybe they've been around for a while, but they just don't have the name recognition that others do. So the Michigan Serves, this is the Michigan Nonprofit Organization, but look at miserves.org. This site is the site that really kind of evens the playing field for the big kids and the little kids. So the big organizations and the little organizations. It is organized by region, zip codes, causes, into categories like that. And then what it does is it pulls from your volunteer and donations page on your website, and it has some basic information about your organization. You may want to change it, and then you can do that. But if you take a look, we'd like you to see if you're in there. And if you are, great. If you're not, you can follow up with me and we can help you get in there. But what this is it's a great way to lead people not only to your volunteer page, but also your donations page. And it highlights the people who are doing specific kinds of causes to help volunteers who are looking for, needs like climate change. In Michigan, most youth feel like climate change is a really important thing to volunteer for. And so, but there's not a lot of opportunities for climate change. Interestingly enough, those are harder to come by. But if you have those, they can be cataloged in climate change. And it's an easy way to get volunteers to you. And as well as private donors, foundations, corporations who are looking to make a difference for a specific kind of cause. And they do tend to go to people that names that they know. So it's hard for, someone who's just up and coming and doing great work to be able to get into that arena. But this is going to help with that. The next thing is our interview, and that's the interview.org. I am so sorry. This is a youth platform, and it is built for youth. And the focus is meeting the needs of young people to record their volunteer hours. And what I loved about this, we just recently had a session on this, so we understand it a little more. What I love about this is that it recognizes informal volunteering as well. So with Get Connected, you can create a service resume as a potential volunteer. But this one is centered around the UN. I'm so sorry, the UN Sustainable Goals. And so, like I said, many of them said climate change was really important. Preventing poverty was very important. It's easier to find roles to prevent poverty or to cure poverty than it is to be involved in climate change activities. So that is an opportunity for us as nonprofits to be able to see where volunteers want to serve and how can we help make those happen if it's in our wheelhouse. So the other thing too about the governor's or about interview is this platform allows youth to earn credit for the Governor's Youth Service Award. And this is the only way that young people can earn that award. I will also tell you too that this will allow for informal volunteering. So if you were to, as an informal person, go do a river cleanup, and or you were taking water samples for the health department, that may or may not be one that is on there, but it will allow youth to do those a little more informal volunteering, or doing something for a senior in the community, things like that. They even talked about advocacy. So if you're through school, and if you're doing an advocacy project where you're talking to individuals about the ways that they can help improve recycling efforts, for example, that may not be something that's listed on Get Connected where you can connect to it, but you can put it in interview, and we can actually help you. We're getting the access to be able to put agency needs in there, so we can help drive youth to your organizations through those. And then we also have our Board Connect and our skills-based. Oh yeah, we're listed. Okay. Okay, Jackie. Yeah, she says that she's in it. Okay. Oh, the kids board. Great. Oh, I love that. I love that. Yes. So the Board Connect, I'm really excited about both of these. These platforms are a matching platform, and it exists under the MI service right now. What the Board Connect does is it helps you create an individual creates a profile, and they say, these are the kind of things I'm interested in. These are the skills that I have. And this is how I think I could help the board. This is the kind of board I want to serve on. And then agencies who are looking for board members can go in and take a look and see if their qualifications meet, or if it seems like someone who has something to offer. And then they can contact them and say, hey, you know what, we have board positions available. An agency can also post for a board position in there. You can also do that in Get Connected, but a lot of people I know don't do that yet, but you can. And then the skills-based, so I'm sorry, with the Board Connect, if the agency does that, an individual can say, hey, you know what, I feel like my skills meet the qualifications here. I think I'd be a good fit. And then you could meet with them and see if it really will be a good fit. The other thing is the skills-based platform. Much the same way, agencies will post a need and talk about their impact, talk about how long this will take, things like that. And then a potential volunteer can peruse those opportunities and sign up for something. So I've seen things from everything from doing a strategic planning with their board to something like, review letters for us, review a fundraising request, help us launch our fundraising, our fundraising campaign, things like that. It could be anything. And these are generally people that are looking at these have experience in this. So we ask about that as well. And then just so you know, there's a few other things that are coming up that are being formed. We have something called a BIPOC Alliance. This is for everyone that is interested in, who serves diverse communities, who represent themselves, or a member of a diverse community. And then we're bringing stories and issues and asking some questions about it, learning how we can support BIPOC organizations in a more equitable way. It may be able to morph into funding and things like that. So we have started getting this together. The first step would be we're getting a LinkedIn page together. We're kind of building it up right now, and then we're going to go public with it. That's to come, but we wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. And then we will hold probably BIPOC meetings. And then this is also in addition to the free trainings that we offer twice a month through the commission and our network sessions that we offer. Now, the other thing that's super exciting is that we have our Governor's Service Awards coming up, and that's coming up on November 18th. This week, I cannot believe it, and it's at the Fox Theater. When I send out these slides, I will also include the invitation, and the whole world is invited. So feel free to come and cheer on volunteers, see the governor. She's going to be there for a little bit, and our lieutenant governor is helping to hand out the awards. So please, please, please join us. It's going to be really a wonderful night, the Fox Theater, and there's no cost for that either. So please feel free to join us. Okay, let me go back. I wanted to go back because I kind of mixed that page up. Oh, wow, I really did. I have a last poll, and I'll go ahead and I'll share that poll. I'll launch that poll right now. And Okay. So as you're taking the last poll, just to give you a reminder that you can always contact me, Melissa Sherry, the Volunteer Impact Coordinator. This is my contact information. And I wanted to remind you that our next session on resources that are offered by the Commission is going to be on that Michigan Nonprofit Guide. So I hope that you are going to join us for that. I think that's going to be a really interesting one. The response from agencies so far have been really exciting and really eager to see that get launched more. And we're continue to still be in the building phase of that. We want to get every nonprofit in there that's possible, including those government things. So please, please, please do that. I'm going to end this poll, but I wanted to, and I'll share the results there. It looked like everybody learned something today, so that's great. I wanted to open it up. We still have a few minutes. What questions might you have? What questions might you have about the platform or the needs that you have? How could something like this help you? And I'll ask everybody just to unmute and go ahead and ask if you don't mind. Or you can also share if you have a platform that you are using, a volunteer management platform that you're currently using. This is a quiet, quiet group. All right. Well, I'll stay on. I think I'm going to end the recording now, but I'll stay on for a few moments if anybody has any more questions or if they have any questions. And